Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to episode 1 of Over Histories. I'm Katie Aitken, and this is a docu-series that will shine a light on the people, the projects, and the stories from the voiceover industry of times past. In this episode, we're looking behind the mic to celebrate the life and the voice of Eartha Kitt. You might know Eartha Kitt as the singer of hits such as the 1953 Christmas classic Santa Baby. Or perhaps as the 1960s vixen who portrayed Catwoman.
No best-dressed list is complete without the addition of the queen of criminals, the princess of plunder, yours untruly. Right, Manx and Angora?
Right.
In holding such incredible credits that are still considered contemporary even by younger audiences today, you'd be forgiven for not immediately knowing about her contributions and credits as a voiceover artist. However, with an impressive list of characters and productions that she lent her voice to, and quite the armful of Annie and Daytime Emmy Awards to show for it, her voiceover work was undoubtedly an important part of her career. The extraordinary tales of Kitt's life are a colourful mix of exciting career highs, bravery, and deep hardship. Her legacy on the whole is framed differently depending on who you ask or what you read. In her obituaries, she was noted for her difficult reputation, being a force of nature, and a seducer of audiences. The New York Times recorded that she was among the first widely known African-American sex symbols, something that Kitt clearly revelled in as a self-professed sex kitten and referred to herself as the original Material Girl. But one of the greatest and often referenced endorsements of Kitt was from Orson Welles, who in the 1950s declared her to be the most exciting woman in the world.
Orson Welles said, "You were the world's most exciting woman."
What do you mean, were?
Kitt's childhood years were loaded with hardship. She was born in South Carolina in 1927. Her mother was African American and Cherokee, and she never knew her father, but understood him to be the white son of the owner of the cotton plantation that she was born on. At the age of about 3 or 4, she was rejected and abandoned by her mother, who had taken up with a man who was said to have had little time for the light-skinned Eartha. Eartha Kitt's daughter, Kit Shapiro, puts this into some context, saying, "In 1927, to be a light-skinned black person in the South was just as horrible as being a black person in the white South. My mother was not accepted by the black community."
I am with Indian blood, and I am with black blood, and I am with what we say in America, Caucasian blood. So I already have 3 different varieties of nationalities within me. So as a result, if you are, say for instance, more of one blood than you are the other, it doesn't matter if your skin is brown, you belong to the black people, or you belong to the brown people, whichever you want to call it. But I have been thrown from one position to the other because as a child I was neither accepted by the black or by the white, so I had to find my own direction. So even today I feel I cannot afford to be prejudiced against anyone, and I don't want to be.
So much of Eartha Kitt's childhood was spent moving from abusive foster homes to abusive relatives' homes, forced to earn her keep from a young age by picking cotton. It wasn't until Eartha Kitt was 71 years old that she discovered her actual date of birth, spending most of her life convinced that her birthday was the 26th of January 1926, when it was actually 17th of January 1927. Kitt began her career in the 1940s and was a rising star as an actress and singing sensation through the 1950s.
You must have a very distinctive voice because you're going to such pains to disguise it, have you? appeared in motion pictures, too. Might you be described as sinuous in your performances?
Yeah.
Are you Eartha Kitt?
Eartha Kitt is right.
Her singing style and overall vibe was something that future icons would strive to emulate, including Madonna, who covered Santa Baby, and Diana Ross, who said that Eartha Kitt's influence was massive in how she created her sound and look in The Supremes. In 1966, Eartha Kitt played the iconic role of Catwoman in the third and final season of the TV show Batman. However, her career experienced quite the blip that started in the late 1960s and lasted almost a decade. This was as a result of the White House incident.
Yes, well, in 1968, I was asked to go to the White House, invited by President Johnson, Mrs. Johnson. And the invitation said, on the top of the invitation, it was, "Why is there so much juvenile delinquency in the streets of America?" Well, when the opportunity presented itself, such as this luncheon, I said to Mrs. Johnson, who asked me the question, "Why is there so much juvenile delinquency in the streets of America?" And I put the question back to her. Do you not think it might have something to do with our involvement in Vietnam? Because our young boys feel that if they are good guys, they are the ones who are more apt to get the gun, to go out and shoot against their desire.
Now, at the time, protesters were raging against the Vietnam War, and 1968 did in fact prove to end up being the deadliest year of the war for the Americans. President Lyndon B. Johnson made a brief appearance at the luncheon, where he addressed the room of women, stating that preventing youth crime started at home with the mothers, and also called for more police support. Kitt had some questions.
But what do we do about delinquent parents? The parents who have to go to work, for instance, who can't spend the time with their children that they should. This is, I think, is our main problem.
Well, the Social Security bill just passed this year. Sets up millions and millions of dollars for daycare centers where mothers can take their children to school. That's one step. I think that'd be a very good question for you to ask yourself and other women here, and y'all tell me what you think.
After this rather floundering response about new Social Security funding for daycares, and then suggesting that the answer to her question was something for the woman at the luncheon to figure out, the president made a speedy exit. After that, Kitt recalled growing increasingly frustrated at the luncheon, feeling that the women were losing sight of the discussion at hand. When her time came to speak, she ensured that the conversation was refocused and took the opportunity to let her opinions be known. And she didn't hold back. "You send the best of this country off to be shot and maimed. They rebel in the street. They will take pot and they will get high. They don't want to go to school because they're going to be snatched off from their mothers to be shot in Vietnam." It was claimed that Lady Bird Johnson was reduced to tears, and when it was time to leave, there was no car to take Eartha Kitt back to her hotel. When asked just after the incident if she felt bad about what had happened, having clearly upset both the president and his wife, Kitt maintained her stance.
An embarrassing moment for Mrs. Johnson. Do you have any regrets about that?
No, I don't have any regrets about it at all. Why should I be upset by the fact that she was embarrassed? That's her problem.
Shortly after, Kitt's bookings for entertainment appearances were cancelled and work offers in America dried up. It was a smear campaign. The CIA produced an extensive report about her, full of gossip and wild accusations, and lacking any evidence. In a later interview, Kitt called the report purely political and proof that she was blackballed by President Lyndon B. Johnson and Lady Bird Johnson. In the late 1970s, Eartha Kitt's career was reignited back in America when she starred in Broadway hit Timbuktu, which earned her a Tony Award.
I'm here.
Her ventures into voice acting came later in her career, really kicking off in the 1990s.
You know, you should have been doing voiceovers like years ago. I mean, you've got the perfect voice for that.
Well, I was doing voiceover sometime in the 60s, and they told me that my voice was too sensuous and I would not be able to sell a product because people remembered the voice and they wanted to buy the record rather than the product. So it left me out for a very long time.
So it seems she did try to dip her toe into the world of voiceovers in the 1960s, but there were too many obstacles. But fast forward 3 decades to the late 90s, and Kitt was doing commercial voiceover work for big brands such as Milky Way and Skippy Peanut Butter.
Fat. For years, people have tried to hide it, stuff it, even burn it. Well, we have a new idea. We cut it with new, creamier, reduced fat Skippy Peanut Butter spread. 25% less fat than regular Skippy and so creamy. You can spread it, devour it, and just love it. New creamy and reduced fat Skippy Peanut Butter spread. Cut the fat. Don't cut out the Skippy. Wow.
But commercial retail brands were not the only ones opening the voiceover doors to Eartha Kitt. Disney was not far behind. Perhaps Kitt's best-known voiceover role is as Yzma in The Emperor's New Groove. But this was not actually her only, or even first, Disney character. In 1998, she voiced Bagheera in Disney's largely forgotten third adaptation of the Mowgli stories from The Jungle Book, the live-action, straight-to-video film. It was a couple of years later that she would use her distinctive voice to breathe life into the hilarious, evil villain, Yzma.
Fact of highest treason has but one punishment: death. Guards! Take him away!
The success of The Emperor's New Groove, thanks in part to the characters and performances, meant that it turned into an entire franchise with a sequel film as well as a video game and subsequent TV show. Kitt won a total of 3 Annie Awards and 2 Daytime Emmy Awards for her role as Yzma. Between 2003 and 2007, Kitt provided the voice for Queen Vexus in the Nickelodeon show My Life as a Teenage Robot. And then one of the final productions she would guest star in seems almost predetermined. After a career of being defined with every feline reference imaginable, a voice that purred, being a sex kitten who prowled across the stage, even having a career that had 9 lives. The production was Wonder Pets, and Kitt lent her voice to Cool Cat. For this role, she posthumously won her final Daytime Emmy Award. Eartha Kitt is truly incomparable, and spectacular though her career was, she's remembered for so much more than that. In terms of her voice, she used hers for so many purposes, being a real inspiration as both a voice actor and in life. As a voiceover artist, she portrayed characters for Disney and Nickelodeon, as well as guest appearances in The Simpsons and American Dad. As a singer, she impacted and influenced music and musicians through the generations with her distinctive style and sound. But perhaps most inspiringly of all, she used her voice to speak up for what she believed in, with raw honesty and integrity, fighting for what she felt was right, and not allowing herself to ever be held back for fear of the consequences. And in next week's episode of Voiceover Histories, we're exploring a voiceover first, as we delve into the first use of voiceover in animation. See you then!